I think art is quite spiritual at times. In other times, it is rather political, because what we do is that we take an image with us, and in the middle of the night, it might nudge us and say, it means this. No, it means something else. That there's a dialogue. And sometimes it's an unconscious dialogue. And you wake up and say, what was that about? The work is doing this job even when we don't realize it.
Floyd Tunson is the seventh child of a family of 10 brothers and sisters, mother and father. Floyd Tunson is an artist. I've been an artist all my life.
Music is the healing force of the world, without question, constantly, continually. Subconsciously, we don't even know. The music moves us all the time. So, as long as that's happening, I mean, hopefully we can enlighten.
My two brothers that were artists, my oldest brother was JC, who was the biggest influence on me. Actually, I idolized him. My youngest brother, Randy, was probably the most gifted of all of us. But his career was cut short by an incident in the city park of Denver in 1973 when he was shot by the police.
I was thinking of a series of paintings and drawings that Floyd has, but endangered also means where we are in America, especially when we think about Black men. That's what's been captured in Floyd's work. And I think that relates to the death of his brother as well.
It puts a scar on you. I know I was so upset the way they treated my family after the shooting. They thought that perhaps we were upset and everybody in the Black community was upset and they were going to do something like riot or terrorize everyone. But it was just so painful to watch my mother sit on the porch in her grief and these helicopters constantly flying over the house with their searchlights and so forth.
The way that I came to Colorado is that I had come back from Vietnam, and my last year and a half or so, I was stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado.
I met Yusef back in 1975 in Colorado Springs. Yusef was living in Colorado Springs when I moved there.
And I saw the mountains, and there was something about the mountains that I said, gosh, I ended up staying in Colorado for 7.5 years.
We just jived. We had something in common, and we had a certain electricity amongst us. And we just had somebody that we could relate to. I could relate to him, he could relate to me. We knew that we were neophytes in what we were trying to pursue, but we were really sincere about pursuing it. He was sincere about being a poet, and I was sincere about being a visual artist. And I feel like we are brothers from different mothers.
All of Floyd's work is just stunning and powerful, beautifully militant. You know, I can't isolate one Floyd Tunson piece. It's a universe.
The imagery in Hearts and Minds, I think there's dichotomies there where they're the endangered and then they're endangering at times, because in society, when you have these enclaves of disenfranchisement in society and so forth, or you have areas of society where there's a lot of violence, And violence is in the black community just like it's everywhere else. And for a while there, it was really a lot of gang activity, black on black crime. And it was sad to see that the endangered were also the endangering. Some of those individuals in hearts and minds, it's no different than it is today. There's many handcuffed individuals that are not menacing or doing anything. They just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong police.
I'm quite taken with how much authority he has as a painter and as a thinker as well. It's a kind of collaboration in time and space, because often it seems as if we're thinking some of the same thoughts. For myself, I think of poetry as celebration and confrontation. And in that sense, that's what Floyd's work is doing as well.
The two figures in Untitled 118 are like ghost figures. They're youth. They're the children that are disappearing, that are neglected, that are in the background, not taken care of. Let's talk about race.
To be a black man in America is to be endangered, without question. There's a certain anxiety that is constant. I've lived abroad, I've performed abroad. It's all of a sudden, this weight is taken off of your chest and you can breathe and you went, gee, boy, it's great over here, I like it. And you realize when you come back, oh, that's what it is. It's in the soil. It's in the soil. This is our way of fighting back, or our way of trying to, not even so much fighting back, man, just trying to clear a space, you know?
I never had a clue that the mayor of Denver was in the Ku Klux Klan until later on, much later on in the 70s. And really after all the uprisings in all cities and so forth in the 60s, it was much later that we realized that the Klan was very prominent in Denver. I mean, they said that it was like 170,000 strong. And that's pretty strong for a community like Denver, Colorado. So the Klan, and they weren't ashamed. They had parades and so forth. So the Klan was pretty prominent in Denver from 1936 on. Of course, they were underground when I was growing up. We didn't see anybody in robes or anything, or knew very much about activities of the Klan, but I'm sure they had disseminated into all parts of our culture there. The cattle rustlers were not the people we assumed they to be. My painting, Wrestlers, is about actually the discovery of oil in the Sudan, which was the elder of the Bush family that was responsible for that, but basically is fighting over the oil that exists in the Sudan. That's what Wrestlers are about. The Wrestlers are basically about also the Nubians, who wrestling is very much a serious aspect of their culture of decorating themselves and having matches. And universal bunnies comes from the derogatory term of jungle bunnies. But they had lots of names for us. Jungle bunnies, coons, you name it. When you see the jungle bunnies, they're doing things that everybody does. Jungle bunnies are doctors. Jungle bunnies are masons. Jungle bunnies are lawyers. Jungle bunnies are judges. I mean, come on, we're the ones that built this country. Jungle bunnies did that.
The only thing the artist can do is to be true to him or herself and realize that this is really a dialogue. what one person may think about a given work is entirely different than what another person may think. And that's the freedom of art, I think. It is so different than producing propaganda, because propaganda has a slogan, even when it's not spoken.
This is about putting Floyd's work in front of folks, and how can we support that with poetry, song, music, rhythm. Floyd's paintings have a lot of rhythm, as do Yusef's lyrics have a lot of rhythm.
The images almost function as poems.
Probably the first blowback I got was from the raw deal. Everybody thought that was when I first did that, and that was probably early 90s maybe or something. And I was trying to sell some raw deal t-shirts. Said, that's too much. That's too radical. And I thought it was right on time, but of course I was wrong. But the raw deal is very relevant right now.
Individual from another generation may feel like, oh, this is radical. Often I say, what is radical about truth?
Once they started with the algorithms of doing facial recognition, that there was going to be a problem. Too many injustices have been put upon Black individuals that are pulled into the criminal justice system because they have been misidentified. The algorithms are developed with mostly white males, and that's why they really don't work for recognizing Black males and people of color and women. Putting the canaries in the mine, I have the Black youth in the mine. They're the ones that are kind of like the bellwether for the society, as who's dying or where the danger lies in society. They're the ones that are disappearing. Rape, the bottom line for rape is that it became such a viable part of war and conquering, and to the victor go the spoils, and the spoils recently and in the past has always been, when you encounter or take over a certain part of a society, you rape the women. And that's basically what that was trying to convey, that has been going on for a long time in that aspect of the ugly part of war in conquering.
An artist should have the freedom to do what he or she does and not be challenged with questions in their heads from others. I have a play that I've been writing. There's a little song in there that I wrote. When you can breathe for me, you can tell me who to love. And that is the same thing I feel about art to an extent, When you can breathe for me, you can tell me what to write.
I know it's probably going to happen, but I'm not so sure that I'll be around to witness the real changes that need to be made in relationship to the Black male and just Black people in this particular society now.